Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Thank you all for joining us for another episode. Today we are hearing from posing and competition prep coach who has her own line of waist trainers too, and she is known, as soon as I say this, and of course if you didn't read the title, you're going to know who I'm talking about. She is known for repping girls with tattoos on stage. This pro is married with kids and has proven time and time again that you can overcome challenges and recreate your life with consistency and the commitment to being better. Welcome to the show, Carla Garthwaite. How are you doing?
I'm so excited, and that is the most beautiful intro I have ever heard. That is so exciting.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it. I was like, well, from reading all your posts, and like, I love that you create such real content. Like, it's obvious. Me and my friend were talking about it too. I told her I was prepping your episode, and she's like, she just posts like value. Like, you can tell she actually wants to provide value. And I felt like in so many of your messages, you really encourage and inspire that feeling of you can overcome things, and you really can commit to your life being better. And I think you're a great example of that.
Thank you. Social media is it can be a dark place if you, especially in this industry, if you let it. But my whole thing is, when I was an amateur becoming a pro, I was kind of new to Instagram, but I would always wonder about other pros and, how they ate, how they prepped, and they really didn't share too much information. And social media can be kind of fake nowadays, especially. So I try to put up super real stuff, insightful. I feel like education is more important for me, for my brand, for social media than there's enough fake people on Instagram.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like being myself.
And you totally are. And I'm excited because I'm going to talk to you a lot about that today, actually. And something that you said that stood out to me was that when you were an amateur, you always wondered about the pros. Like, that's why I started this podcast. So
Yes.
I'm excited to get into everything with you. And I got to ask, because I ask everybody this when they come on, what is something you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Honestly, I'm not a big, how do I say this? Unfortunately, I used to go to church every Sunday. I kind of have the excuse now that life is so busy and whatnot, but I do pray. And one of the things that every single show, right before I get on stage, I'll say a little prayer. I've actually done a group prayer before at nationals a couple of years ago, but I say a
Wow.
little prayer, and I just thank God for even getting me to that point, because competing is a luxury. It's not a necessity. And healthy enough to compete and wealthy enough to compete. And I just always ask him to, I always ask him to make me like butter on a hot skillet on stage. And then I ask him to not let me fall. And then I thank him for even getting me there. And also, I always ask him to let me be okay inside with whatever outcome happens.
Mm.
So that's my little ritual. I do it every time before I get on stage, and it helps.
I love that. Wow. Okay, so you said like butter on a hot skillet. Like, I can imagine what this means, but I'd rather hear it from you.
Well, I always see it's so interesting because when you're on stage, you don't really you're not really focused on other girls posing or their routines or anything. You're more just like, it's selfish. You're there for yourself. You have an agenda, but sitting out in the audience, sometimes I see some spectacular physiques, and sometimes the posing is oh gosh, it's cringeworthy. And I'm just like, I don't want to be that person. I want it to look effortless, even though it's not effortless at all.
Yeah.
Um, so I always want to look as natural as I can, because it's just always the worst when you see, sometimes you see posing, like I said, such really good physiques, and then their posing's just kind of stiff, or maybe it doesn't complement their body. And I just always want to glide out there, and I want it to look effortless. I want people to look at me and not look away, basically.
Mm. Yeah, they can't take their eyes off of you. Yeah.
Yes, because bikini, there's so many of us, and we all kind of look the same, because we all get lost on the side. I mean, we're all wearing kind of the same suit, just different colors. We start to look the same after a while. So I always want to stand out, and have the judges keep their eye on me, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And you're a posing coach yourself. So what are some of the things that you've done, for you and also for others so that you can go out there and hold their attention?
I always I always tell the girls that you don't want, well, as let's talk about like for an amateur,
Mhm.
you don't want to take too much time on stage. Well, number one, there's so many girls nowadays, and they've cut the time down drastically. It used to be 10 seconds. Some shows I've seen it's 8 seconds. I always tell them to not overcomplicate it, to just hit your best poses that best flatters your physique, and get off, because the more time you're up there, kind of, I always describe it, I'm like, if you're like a dead fish, flopping around on the stage, they're going to find things. The longer you're up there, they're going to find things that are bad. I'm not going to say bad, but we're asking to be judged. You get on stage to be judged. So the longer you're up there, the more things they're going to find that could be possibly wrong with your physique. So you just kind of want to hit your best angles and get off.
Yeah, especially because they're like trained to see things.
Oh yes.
So they're gonna notice it even probably quicker than you just doing it a long time, for example. Like they're gonna see it even with a 9-second routine, a 10-second routine. So the more you can limit that and make sure that in that 10 seconds they're seeing, let's say like 99% really great things, that's gonna
Hmm.
probably make your chances better.
For sure. And you don't want to, from the second you can see the judges and they can see you, they're looking, even when you're standing on the side. So there's so much that goes into posing. Polish is a huge deal. A part of polish comes with the posing. So I love teaching girls. I get mainly girls that already have kind of routine, and then I kind of clean it up. But I love teaching people. I have taken a lot of girls from nothing to their routines for stage, and then over time, as they get more seasoned, become a more seasoned athlete, we can change up their routine a little bit, because your physique will change. You'll get more muscle, or sometimes you lose muscle, and it's all about changing and growing as an athlete. And polished and posing is a huge part of that along the line.
Yeah, definitely. And you're so right about how they can see you. Like as soon as they can see you, like and you can see them, they're looking. Like I've had
Yes.
moments where I'll be backstage and I'm just hitting like my like a pose before I start the walk because I've made eye contact with judges who are looking at me backstage. I've also been on stage and seen judges' eyes, go somewhere else, check the girls on the side, check me, check the girls, it's like you have most of the times like your head judge is like always looking at you, but I've noticed sometimes
Hmm.
there's wandering eyes, and it's good to just be prepared no matter what.
For
Like when
sure.
you're in that comparison line, you can see where they're looking, you get a good
Oh, for
idea.
sure. Yeah, and they're grouping you guys, all of us. They're grouping all of us. They're, picking, and usually it is that first comparison line is usually where they're pulling girls from the first call outs, that they want to see more of. So yes, it's so important to be on point the second your heel touches that stage.
Oh yeah. So a big part of your journey. I mean, I think when people look at you, they don't really believe how far you've come since
Mhm.
2004. So let's say even before competing, before becoming a posing coach, before becoming a competition prep coach, you were living a more, like normal life, so to speak, and
Yeah.
you were 60 pounds heavier, give or take. So what made
hmm
you decide to commit to change and create this better version of yourself?
I let's see. I didn't start really like lifting weights until after my son was born. Um, I honestly came from my single mom household, a very blue collar household, and we kind of ate what we could afford. And I really wasn't taught nutrition at a young age. So I kind of took that into adulthood and kind of just ate whatever. My mom wasn't active, so I wasn't in sports or anything like that. So I didn't really have any of that as I got older. I was very sedentary, and I had had two children, and I was very unhappy with my body, uncomfortable. I just didn't like a lot of things about my physique. And I thought, man, I'm really young to be this overweight. And I honestly didn't know anything about working out. And I told myself, well, walking's exercise. So I started walking in my neighborhood, and then I had dropped a lot of weight. And then it's so funny. When I first started working out, I just wanted really nice legs and a six pack. And so I bought I bought the Jillian Michaels 6 week six pack, and I did that in my living room, and I got a six pack, and I was like, well, I wonder how much further I can take my physique. And so I found a little gym where a guy took me in, and he basically made me his intern, and I did speed and conditioning internship with him while I was getting my personal training certification, and he kind of taught me how to lift weights. And then that started changing my body. And there was a girl in my gym, and I thought she was adorable, and I loved her physique. And I heard her telling another girl that she was going to do a bikini competition, and I literally just Googled it, and I was like, I saw it, and I go, I want to do that, or just see if I can. And so I got married, and then I told my husband, I said, I just want to do a show just to see if I like it or not. And I did it. I did one show, and I prepped for 16 weeks. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I coached myself, and I was obsessed from the very first show. I won my open class and the novice class. And ever since that day, I said, I want to be a pro. And that's kind of how it started. So it's been a long, long journey. But yeah, that's how it started.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love how when you completed your prep and you had, that there is a level of validation that I think comes from winning, your classes, and it's
hmm
exciting, and it can definitely like light that fire even more, especially if you had a positive experience and then you were like, I want to become a pro one day, and now you are. And I've always
hmm
been curious about, specifically for you, if there are any things that you used to stress about as an amateur that you don't stress about now as a pro, and maybe things that, now that you are a pro, that you worry about or consider that you hadn't considered as an amateur, if that's clear.
Oh wow, love this question.
Thank you.
Um, I love this question. As an amateur, well, okay, at the before I was on the national level, which I only did two regional shows before I went to nationals. Um, I miss those days because there's really no expectations. You're just kind of like going just to see what happens. And of course, we all want to win. Everybody wants to win. Of course, it makes it fun. I call it like the question you just went back to. When you do well, it's a post show high. Um, it takes your motivation and energy levels through the roof. On the national level, let's see, the pressure that I felt there was literally, the pressure is so high to win because you have to get first.
Mhm.
And the last couple of years, I remember my first national show I ever did, there was 55 girls in my class,
Oh my
and the pressure,
gosh.
yes, the pressure to win is just out of this world. So when you go pro, there's no more pressure anymore to make it because you've made it, if that makes sense. So,
Mm-hmm.
I went pro at Junior USA, which was very difficult because you have to get first place and then top 4 in overall. So that pressure was intense. So then when I went pro, I finally felt relief. Like I was like, oh my God, I made it. So I didn't feel pressure anymore to win. On the pro level, for me, I think I got lost the last 2 years, still feeling pressure to win because everybody puts this, thing in your head that you have to make it to the Olympia. And it's like, so I'm not a good pro because I'm not an Olympian. I don't
Mm.
know. It's just um I got lost in that pressure the last 2 years. And so I do miss the national level days sometimes because there's a lot of things I think on the pro level that are different than the national level. It's very, like I said, it's very intense. Everybody wants to win, and the pressure is so high, and you're competing with the best in the world, and it's almost as if you don't place or you don't win, you feel like, gosh, I'm a loser. On the
Mm-hmm.
national level, you're like, oh, okay, well, I just have to keep going. So I miss things, about the national level, and I miss, things. Definitely, the pressure is a lot more intense, but you just kind of have to shift your mind, and your goals have to change. So yeah, there's things I miss about both.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you brought up a really interesting point about how there has been this pressure on you the past 2 years of like, am
Hmm.
I a good enough pro if I'm
Right.
not on the Olympia stage? And I think
Hmm.
that there's amateurs who feel that way about being on a national stage and getting top call
Hmm.
outs. They go on over and over again and they question if they can do it. Then there's pros who go over and over again competing, like you went on a run of competitions. And
Hmm.
you recently were really open about how bodybuilding has actually impacted your relationships in the past. And you mentioned in a
Hmm.
post once that something Sandy said at a show stuck with you, which was to never walk away from relationships because of the sport. And you had
Hmm.
a few years of really emotionally detaching yourself from your marriage because of the desire to
Hmm.
win consuming you. So you even said that at the pro level, you have to give every single ounce of energy every single ounce of your soul to the sport to be successful. So since realizing you were investing so much energy into the sport and so much energy into winning and seeing that, your husband loved you through everything, and it was
Hmm.
then time for you to give him and your marriage even more of your energy, like what have you been doing to prioritize that and make that mental shift and those personal changes?
Honestly, like I said, the last 2 years, I was so when I went pro, I did my pro debut like the same year, and then, like I said, I placed top 6 at that show, and so that gave me, and I went pro and I was on a high, and then I placed top 6 and I was on a high, and then I went to, in my opinion, one of the most prestigious shows in our sport, which is the Arizona Pro. I placed 4th. That was a high. So
Mhm.
my first year as a pro, I was riding this high, but you forget that I was trying to go pro for 3 years. So it was like 3 years, and then my pro, rookie year was another year, and then last year. So it's like I have not stopped. I don't think I've taken, I think at the most I've taken maybe 8 weeks off in the last four
Wow.
years. Yeah, off of prep. And so this last year, I was on prep for 11 months, and once I got done and kind of got through the post show blues and everything, I woke up one day and I was like, I can't believe that I have invested this much of my life in competing. And I can't believe my husband hasn't left me,
Mm.
because you're so obsessed with competing and traveling and eating and training and taking care of your kids, taking care of your clients. And he's just kind of on the back burner. And just because he loves me and is okay with it doesn't mean that for me that it was right that I put him through that. But he loves me and he would never say anything to me to hurt my feelings. And so when we did finally have a date night for the first time in 3 years, he expressed to me that he was, sad that he missed me and he missed taking me on dates. And it just hit me so hard, because no one deserves to be treated um, any different because of a sport. And I had gone to one of Sandy's seminars, and she said, you shouldn't give up relationships over competing. And I thought, well, he's not going to leave me, but I want to work on this to make it better, because that's what he deserves. So it really just took some time off for me, and it's going to take some time off and off season for me to work on my relationship, because at the end of the day, let's say this is a long shot, but let's say I became Miss Bikini Olympia
Mhm.
2020. It's not going to happen, but this is just for fun. Um, at the end of the day, one day you will step off stage, and that's going to be over, and you think, okay, is it worth losing my marriage over a $7 trophy? It's not worth losing relationships over competing. Competing is fun, but it's a hobby. It's not your marriage, and it's not your life, and it shouldn't be your life. And on the pro level, you do have to, in my opinion, for me, you have to give it everything from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. It's a full-time job, and you have to balance that with all the other things you have going on. And sometimes one person gets off of the seesaw and it's not balanced anymore. It's just all one weight on one side. So in my off season, that is something that I wanted to focus on, was building my businesses and working on my marriage, because I have been neglecting him for way too long, way too long. So, and mentally, I love this so much. So I want to jump back into competing right now, but it's not meant to be right now, not for a little bit longer.
Wow, I appreciate you opening up and sharing all of that, because I think those are the types of truths and realness that people need to hear and want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
because they can learn from it. And my mind is going in a lot of different directions in terms of where I want to take what you were saying, because there was just so much value in that. So I guess I'll start with you mentioned that once you kind of got through some of the post-show blues and the feelings
Uh-huh.
that you were having, you had expressed that the post-show blues you were experiencing were, making you not want to go to the gym or even go out in public. And you said you were
Mm-hmm.
feeling like emotional and just a deeper human emotions than one should actually be feeling. So what did
Mm-hmm.
you do during this time to get through that?
Um, I think a lot of people don't talk about the mental health side of competing. Um, and I know on several of my posts I've put up that people see this picture of you on stage, and you're tan and you have makeup on and you're lean and your suit is sparkly and you have all this jewelry on, and it just looks so insanely beautiful. But they don't see all the pain and suffering that goes into getting to that moment, literally the 60 seconds that you get on stage. So after all that is said and done and it's over, you go from being very lean and in the best shape of your life to, your hormones are a little out of whack and your body's trying to figure out what's going on, and emotionally, and you get up in the mirror, or you wake up and you look in the mirror and your body's changing, and it's very hard to take, because I think a lot of us competitors sort of get body dysmorphia issues. and it's a lot to handle. And I had also made a post that not just pros, but most of us in our worst, at our very worst in off season, some people won't even reach that at their best. So we forget that. And so for me, I had to take it day by day. And some days I woke up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym today. And some days I woke up and I'm like, I just need to rest. And so I really tuned into like listening to my body this time, and let it, I took it day by day. And something that really helped me too was, this was the first time that my coach had given me like a proper reverse diet. I've never properly reversed before. I'm actually sad to admit that, but I had never properly reverse dieted before. So that really helped me, because it was keeping me accountable for my cardio, keeping me accountable for my meals, and my body didn't go to complete garbage in 2 days. So I was really happy with that. And that actually helped me a lot too, because it kept me focused, because a lot of us, well, every competitor is driven towards goals. So that helped me, having a proper off season and just taking it day by day, a proper reverse, I'm sorry. Just taking it day by day. And that helped me a lot, so that I could be better and have something to work on.
Yes, most definitely. And I agree with you that the mental health side of competing isn't expressed enough, especially in the form of as it's happening or what it was like when it happened. And so what we experience in that time frame can be really scary, and it can be what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like demotivating. And so it's important that we stay on top of that. And that's a big reason why why I studied psychology and why I'm pursuing clinical mental health, is because this is exactly what I want to help competitors with. And I created a post-show blues program, actually. So if anyone listening is struggling with these things, I highly recommend that you check out that program. I'm not going to talk about it a ton, but I think it's a really good program. Anyway, I think that what happens is when we see our body changing and we're so used to seeing it look a certain way, we almost start questioning if we're doing things right, if we are actually going to ever be able to look the same way we had again, or why aren't we able to, especially if we're going off of plan and we're not properly reversing. Then we're like, so much guilt, so much blame, a lot of shame as well, because we see ourselves as a competitor and we don't live up to that standard that we think we should. And you talked about how you hadn't ever properly reversed. You also only had like 8 weeks off. So I could see why that would happen when you're go all the time. As soon as you get like a taste of freedom, our body craves what it needs, So
for sure.
that makes sense. So you got a proper reverse this time, and you really tuned into your body. You listened to what your needs were, and you let it guide you, which is something not a lot of people do. They don't feel comfortable doing that. But you also stayed driven by your goals, especially with the proper reverse. So how was this proper reverse helpful or beneficial to you on a physical level? Like, did you find that you were able to gain more strength? Did you notice more muscle? Like, what did you notice physically?
Physically, so I noticed obviously that I've been so lean in the past, and so I'm trying to shift my mindset into being fuller, because that's what the judges want. They want shape. And so I'm trying to shift my focus into, or I was trying to shift my focus into eating more food. And I noticed that my muscles were fuller. And because for years I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't grow my upper body. Well, it turns out you just need food. So I noticed that my muscles were fuller. I was definitely stronger. I was able to sleep a little bit better, because I guess, you don't have so much pressure. You kind of feel, like you said, freedom. You feel at peace. And so everything just improved, from the fullness of my muscles, my strength, my sleep. I did notice that cardio is getting a little tougher for me, only because I think this makes sense. Like I feel heavier, so I
Oh, girl,
just
I
feel,
know. I know what you're
so it
talking about.
just, yeah, like you feel heavier, so you just feel like sluggish, like you're doing cardio and it's almost like the first time you did cardio because you're not um, a little lean bean. So it's cardio is definitely harder, but that's, I feel better because it makes me sleep better. So everything was improved for me, and I no longer have the feeling in my head that food's gonna make me fat. Because I used to think that all this food was gonna make me fat. Now I eat food and I'm like, yes, this is fuel. Make my muscles full, make me look muscular and shapely. So it's everything is different, and I'm really, really happy.
I can imagine that transition mentally to accepting that more food is better was probably really challenging if you always felt
Mm-hmm.
like it was going to make you like fat. And there is like this
Mm-hmm.
time of that mental shift happening where you're like going back to old ways, and then you're like stuck in your
Yes.
old thought patterns. Then you're like, no, I need to eat more. That's what's going to challenge
Mm-hmm.
these beliefs and challenge my norm, which is being too lean. And so when you were going through that, what kinds of maybe breakthroughs or realizations did you have that helped you to finally accept, like, I actually do need this to grow and make my muscles look fuller?
Honestly, after getting my butt, I wouldn't say my butt kicked. I joke, I have a crazy sense of humor. I would say after doing 11 pro shows with them telling me the same critique every single time, it finally kicked me right in the butt. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I need to listen, and I guess I need to eat and grow because they've been telling me this for 11 shows and I need to listen. So, um, it took this last show for me to finally just be like, okay, I need to eat, because if I don't eat, I'm not going to grow, and I'm not going to waste another prep and go on stage without bringing, my absolute best. And that's always the goal as an athlete, is just to bring your best. And this time I'm like, maybe it's not my physique so much I need to change, it's my mindset. Because if I don't change my mind, the body's not going to follow.
That's exactly right. And it's amazing how bodybuilding reveals to us like some of our
Hmm.
demons, actually pretty
For
much all
sure.
of them. um,
Right.
and we can't, it like takes us a long time to realize it. And you said it took 11 pro shows with the same feedback.
Yes.
It's like that is such a clear representation of us, going against what we know is necessary for the sake of staying comfortable in our, potentially limiting beliefs or unhealthy belief patterns.
Hmm.
And then, you finally had this moment of, if I'm going to do this, and you also had those realizations of, your husband being off the seesaw, you not being like, you being mostly focused and obsessed with the winning. And I'm sure all these realizations coming to mind made you go, prep is, now it's going to be like a really sacred investment of my time, and I'm not going
For
to
sure.
invest it if it means I'm going to get the same feedback after killing it for 8 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it is.
Yes. Finally, you learn your lesson after some point, hopefully.
Takes a little shaking.
Takes a little shaking. Yes.
And you had been doing more than 2 hours of cardio. You were not
Gosh.
eating very much compared to probably what you're eating now, and you had gotten that
Hmm.
feedback. You're too lean, you're too hard. And when you had to make that decision to sacrifice being the most conditioned girl on stage, so now next time you go up there, you won't get that feedback.
Hmm.
um and knowing that it doesn't always win shows to be the most conditioned girl on stage, what does your ideal or best now look like for you?
Well, and here's the deal, is that I love conditioning. I think that you can, and me being short, so this has there's so many factors that go into, all of our physiques are different, all of us have different amounts of muscle. Being a short girl, you have to be very conditioned because being fuller on stage can look almost out of shape for us. So you have to be very, very conditioned, being 5 foot tall, but you have to fill out properly. And it's always a fine line for a bikini. Um, you know, it's always, for me, my issue is always you're too sharp. You're too conditioned. So for me, it's always a risk coming in fuller because I don't want to appear out of and it's so
Mm-hmm.
crazy because none of us look out of shape, but for the pro level, it's just a really, really fine line. So the next time I get on stage, I really want to bring much fuller upper body, so bigger delt, a wider back, to make my V taper better. My waist is always very, very small, so I'm not really worried about my waist. But I wanted to make my glutes denser, because my coach and I have decided the more muscle that we have in the glutes and shoulders, it's going to be a lot easier. Our preps are going to be a lot easier. We can add more food, and we can still be really, really conditioned. But I want to bring really, really full muscle bellies to stage next time. So that's my goal. So I'm just pushing all the weights right now and eating all of the food to try to achieve this, because it's so much work. Oh my gosh. I would rather condition than build muscle. Let me just say that.
Really?
For sure. Yeah, I love lifting weights, but I love getting really lean.
Yeah.
I'm a psycho. But um eating this much food, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that answers I mean, maybe this answers a question one of our listeners wanted to know if you preferred prep or improvement season. So prep?
Oh, I I am actually preferring this improvement season this year only because I am really enjoying my time away from the stage. It felt so good to wake up on January 1st and not be in prep.
Mm.
That hasn't happened to me in like 4 years, and it just felt so good to wake up and not have a show on my brain. It's doing something great for my soul to have some time off and enjoy my family and be able to go and do things with them without worrying about prep. So this year I'm definitely enjoying my improvement season more than prep. But if you would have asked me that last year, I would have said prep. But I'm enjoying my time off right now.
Awesome. I love that. And I wanted to go back to the discussion of your family and of time prioritization with them and enjoying this time off as well. And
Hmm.
um you said that it feels good to not be thinking about it, and eventually, and you did say, you think about the stage, you like it mentally, it's something you really enjoy. Do
Hmm.
you feel like this time off of really just almost re-immersing yourself into your family life without the worry of prep is actually going to set you up for more successful preps in the future?
Yes, because I think I've finally, in this off season, not just this off season, but just me as a whole, like in this last year, I've grown mentally as well as physically in a lot of different aspects. And it's really going to help me in future preps because I know like how to walk away and mentally be okay with walking away. Um, I think that before I was just like, well, I'm in shape, so I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going. And I always felt like if I waved the white flag, that I was like a quitter.
Mm.
And so now I finally feel so at peace that I can walk away and feel mentally okay. Um, because almost, I always see these people posting no days off and, goals don't sleep. It's like, yeah, that's great. But you're human and eventually you will break and you don't want to break. So I think that this is going to be good for me long term because I finally learned to embrace mentally how to walk away and be okay.
Yeah, that's some powerful stuff. I think
Hmm.
we get caught up in that go, 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 and we forget that we could potentially be in the midst of like burning ourselves out or
For
creating a
sure.
gap in other areas of our life, like you mentioned. And I feel like competing, you can put so much effort and energy into your nutrition and training to the point where it becomes autopilot. You don't have to worry about it. It's just a habit. You're just doing it. But it takes energy to put time and
Hmm.
effort into your mindset and into becoming this version of you that actually can support long preps, can support the demand, the mental demand that comes from
Hmm.
competing. And sometimes we don't want to make that commitment to the mental side of things because we don't realize it's necessary until it hits us and we're like, dang, I really need to do this for myself. And now you are.
Hmm. Yes. And I'm enjoying it.
That's good. And I know you have two kids and
Yes.
you had your two kids before you got into everything. And you want to, and I was struck by this post. I had read it and I was like, I wonder what this means for you. Because you had mentioned, you grew up in a house where your mom was a single mom and it was blue collar house. She wasn't active. You didn't have access to the nutrition that you have access to now and follow now. But you had mentioned you wanted to be an amazing mother and give your kids what you didn't receive. So,
Hmm.
what would you say are some of those major commitments you made to them, made to your kids that you would have loved as a child?
Um, I'm teaching my children about not only good sportsmanship, but nutrition, health. So, my 12, I have a 12-year-old and I have a 15-year-old. And my 12-year-old son, can can pick up a box of, Cheez-Its and say, okay, well, there's this many carbs, there's this much, he knows kind of how to count macros and
Mm-hmm.
he knows what's healthy and what's not healthy. Now, I'm not going to say that he is always going to reach for the healthier version, but I everything that they eat is pretty. I would say it's 70% healthy. So if I make them spaghetti, I make them whole wheat pasta. I do turkey. I don't remember the last time I really bought like beef for them. Obviously my son and my daughter have different my son's like a twig, he can eat whatever. My daughter, eat she can eat a lot of food, but she doesn't have like the same body type that my son has. So I'm just teaching them like overall health, just taking your vitamins, drinking your water, eating healthy, making a healthier decision. They're both active. They both play sports. They're both, my daughter's in marching band. So just overall, just teaching them healthy eating habits. I'm teaching them, the importance and the value of not working out just to change your body, but to stay healthy for the long term. So they're pretty knowledgeable in that in that area. So that makes me happy because they'll be able to take this with them in their life when they grow up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even just statistically speaking, it makes a difference in kids who
Hmm.
grow up learning the right nutrition and having access to it and being taught how to do it and encouraged to do it, end
Hmm.
up continuing those habits and lifestyle patterns moving forward.
Yes, and that was my main goal.
And have they been to your shows before?
You know what? Neither one of them have ever seen me compete before.
Really?
Yes.
That's shocking.
Um,
Is it travel or what's the reason?
Most of it is travel. Another part of it is when I first started, they were a lot smaller. And my son is kind of at a, he's almost a teenager, so he definitely does not want to see his mom. And he always goes, ew. He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to see me in a tiny little bikini. My daughter, I will be taking her to a show this summer to see me compete for the first time. Yeah, she's been, and mainly the reason why she hasn't seen me is, she is very, very busy with school. She is actually going to be graduating next year at 16 years old, and
Wow.
yes, she is immersed in school, and I couldn't really take her to a show because she had so many commitments. So that's kind of why I've really seen me compete before. She's definitely open to it. She's just always been so busy with school. And so that's the only reason why. But hopefully, and also too, I ask my son, I'm like, do you want to see me compete? And he's like, not really. So he's not really interested. So I kind of like, I don't force them.
Yeah, it's
So
not like we're going to mom's competition.
yeah, you're gonna spend, and it's
Oh,
all day
yes.
long. So I don't normally like force them to go, but I will be taking my daughter this summer. So you know, hopefully she'll see me, and I will report back to you and let
Yeah,
you know what she thinks.
that would be awesome. And you said that she's graduating at 16, and is there a reason
hmm
she wanted to do that?
Honestly, since she was super small, she's always loved education, learning, and it's never something that I forced upon her. It's just always something that she was just naturally good at. And she's been in pre-P since she was in the fourth grade,
She's
maybe
been in
third
what?
grade, and pre-AP classes, so
Oh,
like
okay.
advanced courses. And so she, I don't think that she meant to do this, but she has enough credits to graduate. So, and if she continues to go to school, she's only going to be able to do elective courses because she's got enough credits. So
Wow.
I was, the word shocked doesn't describe it. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, what do you mean?
That's
So,
awesome.
yes, it's awesome. I'm very proud of her. I don't take any credit for it. It's all her. She's always been this way. She's super driven. She's super motivated. Um, I absolutely adore her. She's somebody that I look up to, that I wish that I had half of the brains that that child does. She's very smart. She's going to be an amazing, amazing woman. And I just, I have no words for how amazing she truly is. I kind of keep them off of my social media quite a bit, only because they are teenagers, they're getting older, and I don't want their friends on my Instagram page. So
Do you
I
think
try to
their
keep
friends
them,
know who you are?
oh, for sure.
They see
Yeah,
you?
yeah, and that's kind of something that's been an issue for my daughter, because she is, you know, I had tagged her in a couple of my photos previously, while I want to say it was a couple years ago. Um, and kids at her school um, would follow me on Instagram, and so that's just kind of weird. And I felt terrible, and it's just something that I just don't want to. Um, I don't want to put that on her. I want her to enjoy school for a little bit, the last year that she has, and not that I'm a big deal or anything, but it's just something that I don't want people to make fun of her for, or because sometimes you can look at a lot of people don't understand bikini
Yeah.
pros. They see it and it's shocking. They're like, oh my gosh, and some people take it the wrong way, and so I just try to keep my page as PG as possible, and
Yeah.
try to keep them off of there so that they can enjoy their time at school, and not be made fun of or talked about, so to speak.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we're like around that age, like when we're teenagers, everything is about like developmentally we focus a lot on our peer group more than
hmm
anything else. And so if that gets threatened in any way, we feel threatened in some way. And so I think it's interesting and awesome that you had so much awareness of that and you were like, okay, well, what do I need to do to make sure that doesn't
Yeah.
happen? Did people ever say anything to her when you first tagged her?
Yes. And it's, imagine being a 13-year-old girl and maybe you like a boy and the boy that you like is looking at your mom's butt on Instagram.
Mm.
I mean, that broke my heart into a million pieces. And so often our division, the bikini division, can be overly sexualized because it is sexual in a way. I mean, we're in tiny bikinis. The back pose is very jarring if you don't know that they're judging our glutes and our hamstrings. And a lot of people don't think of it as glutes and hamstrings. They see butt and so,
Mm-hmm.
and breasts. And it's something that I just, when I was a teenager, my mom wasn't in shape. She didn't wear baby bikinis. She, I never thought about putting myself in her shoes before. When I, tagged her on a couple of my photos, I never once thought, okay, well, her friends are going to see this. It's nothing that went through my head. It's just like, I'm just trying to post a picture of my daughter. But
Right.
it just, yeah, it broke my heart. Kids in middle school and high school are vicious. It's a traumatizing time. I don't think anyone would ever raise their hand and go back to middle school or high school. So yeah, it's something that I try to keep her away from, her personal page on my page, because I don't want that for her. And I do think that it's something that maybe she created a little bit of resentment towards me for. And it was just very traumatizing. And I just don't ever want her to go through that again. So I try to that's why I keep them so private and off of my page, because, and two, as an adult, as me being the adult, you should be able to have your own, private page or whatever. And my page is not private. And that's mainly because of the companies that I work for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a very touchy subject. And that's why I keep them so separate, because I don't want her to um, be upset in any way, or I don't want her friends to think anything less of her or make fun of her. She, if she came to me tomorrow and said, I need you to delete the page, it bothers me, I would do it in a heartbeat, because that's the love of my life and I want her to be happy.
Mm.
So, yes, it is traumatizing, and it's not something that I wish for anyone with a teenager.
Wow, I got chills when you said that about if she asked you to delete it, you would. I think that's so representative of your love and your just desire to really support them, support
Hmm.
her. And I think that what she experienced and what you experienced because of what she experienced sounds really challenging, emotionally and mentally. And I'm sure that, even when, like you said, people wouldn't go back to middle school or high school most of the time. I'm like, why do we even have reunions? Like, just to show each other that we're different than we were? Like, anyway.
Right?
No thanks. Um,
No thanks.
but it is a challenging time, and there's like
Hmm.
unspoken feelings too, I think, a lot as a teenager or as like a young
Oh, for sure.
adolescent. You're like
Hmm.
feeling a certain way, and you definitely can build lots of resentment because you don't know how to express it, or you don't have your own like full on, you're trying to find your adult identity, so to speak.
For sure.
And
Hmm.
so it's difficult if that's being challenged or questioned, or maybe you don't know what that really looks like for you. And um, you're very committed to being a mom, and a really good mom, and a mom who gives a lot to her kids and supports them. So what does a normal day look like for you? Because we've had a few moms on this show, and we even got a listener who wanted to know about your life as a mom and how there's not that many competitor moms that they know of, but I know there's a lot out there,
Right.
but maybe not at the level you're on.
Hmm.
So what does a normal day look like for you, from being a mom to a business owner to a sponsored athlete and of course a competitor?
So My day usually starts at 5 a.m. I wake up at 5 and I make coffee and I drink. I like to sit on my couch and just it's kind of 45 minutes that's completely silent and to myself, where I can kind of sit here and kind of collect my thoughts, whatever, browse Instagram, check my email. It's kind of my time. And then I wake my son up at 6:30 and I get him, oh my gosh, he hates school, but I get him up every day.
Unlike your daughter.
Unlike my daughter, they're completely different. So I'll wake him up, make his food, and take him to school. And then depending on, um, I usually try to get my training session in after my first meal. It's something that it's still in the off season. I'm very regimented. That's something that I like to do. It's my time for the day. So I'll come back home and I'll eat my food and go train. And then after that, it's usually my clients. So whether that be personal training clients or posing girls, FaceTime, I usually do the client thing between 11 and 3. And then I go pick up my son from school. I bring him home. And then if I have more clients in the evening, sometimes I have girls locally that come after work, and I have a private posing studio in my home now. So they will
Nice.
come. Yes, it's a beautiful thing. They come to the house and they can pose here. So, and then I have to make dinner. It's literally, and then sometimes in between there, I'm running to the grocery store or cooking something. It's a full day. So I'm usually, and I'm old girl. I don't like staying up late. I usually go to bed. I'll put my phone on silent because at some point during the day, I just get so fed up with my phone.
Yeah.
I just need, like, my brain needs like a mental break, and I just can't take it anymore. The beeping, the texts, it drives me insane. So like usually around 8:30, I'll shut it off and put it on do not disturb, and I'll kind of set it down so I can talk to my husband or my son or whatever I have to do before they go to bed. And then I wake up and all the fun starts again. So that's kind of my weekday, Monday through Friday deal. And then on Saturdays, I do group posing locally. And then if my daughter's in season for band, so she does marching band and my son plays baseball, somewhere in between those days, we're doing baseball practice. We're going, dropping her off at the stadium or picking her up. It's a, it's a, it's fun. It's a full-time deal. But I'm so used to being so busy that, like, when I'm not busy, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, what do I do?
And when
Yeah.
you're a goal-driven person, you kind of like being busy all the time. It's
Oh,
almost
you love
like,
it.
yeah, it's like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine not being this, and you want to take on more, and not even for like, not because like, oh, I don't have enough, but because you just genuinely like it.
Yes. You're always wanting to stay busy. It keeps your mind busy and it burns calories. So might as well be, might as well
Gets
be
you
busy.
ready. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that it keeps, I know for me, like when I'm busy, I'm just like super focused and I prioritize so much more of my mindset and self-care too, because I don't have an option not to. So
Right.
when I'm busy, I'm just like, cool, I don't have a choice but to get these certain things done. And it helps me stay on point with that whole mentality of like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like what, makes me keep things clean and organized and also getting the job done when it needs to be done.
For sure.
So is your husband into this lifestyle too?
My husband is, he is an assistant general manager for a really, really cool restaurant concept here in San Antonio, called Whiskey Cake. And he's about to be the general manager of that store. So
Wow.
his job is food and drink. But he, he, he works out to stay in shape and look good. He has zero interest in competing. He just does not want anything to do with it, and I completely respect that. But I did meet him in the gym, actually. So it's fun
Oh,
because, yes, and I picked him up, by the way.
you
So
did tell us about it.
oh my gosh. So I was a personal trainer at LA Fitness years ago, and he would come in about 5 o'clock. And every time I saw him, I thought he was the most handsome man in the world. And he would walk by, and I'm like, he's not looking at me. He must have a girlfriend. Like I'm like purposely like throwing things on the ground like next to him to try to get him to like notice me. He just wasn't having it. And I'm like, this guy, he has got to have a girlfriend. So this went on for months. And I remember going up to the front desk, and I asked the guy, I said, hey, there's this guy who comes in every day. I really think he's handsome. Can you just tell me his name? And he's like, I can't do that. It's private. And I'm like,
Oh no, he did it.
yes. So I'm like, are you going to give me the name, or am I going to have to get it myself? And he's like, I can't do that. So of course I go around the desk and scroll through the check-ins, and I'm like, okay, his name's Jacob Garthwaite. Thank you. So I walk away, and this went on for months when he would come in. And one day, this girlfriend of mine, she just couldn't take it anymore, because I would say, look, there he is, there he is.
Gym
And so,
crush.
yeah, so one day, finally, she walked up to him like I'm 12 years old and says, this is Carla, and what's your name? And he was beet red. Like,
Oh my
I'm talking,
gosh.
yes. And so she walks away, and I said, I don't want to bother you, but I just kind of stalk you from a distance, just
Oh my
softly.
god.
And I think you're super handsome. And if you're not married or have somebody pregnant or pending a divorce, I would really
I
like
love this.
to go on a date with you.
Oh my god, I
So
can't believe
he
it.
yeah, so he was like, okay, and then we exchanged numbers, and that was it. And from our first date, I remember calling my mother and telling her that I knew that he was going to be my husband. I said, Mom, I just met my husband. She's like, what? This
Oh
is
my
crazy.
gosh. What made you know?
Yeah,
Like, what was it?
I just, I never felt that comfortable or that connected to somebody on the first date. It was just something that and he was a true gentleman. He picked me up, walked me to my door, didn't try any funky stuff. He just was so, um, just everything. And if this makes sense, everything that I would want my daughter to marry, I was like, this is the one. So he was just absolutely perfect. And I just loved him from the very first date. And I knew he was going to be my husband. And that's it. That's how it went, and it was wonderful. But he loves working out. So on his days off from work, which is very rare, he works a lot. Um,
Yeah.
he he works like 14-hour days. He never has the same schedule. But when
Wow.
he is, I know it's insane. When he is off, he goes to the gym, and he's my cameraman, and
I love those
he's
IG
wonderful.
husbands.
Yes, he's my IG husband, and he is supports everything I do and records me, and he's an absolute doll, and I love him and appreciate him so much.
No, I can tell. It sounds like you guys had something really special when you first connected, and since then it's really blossomed into this amazing life. And now you're
Hmm.
focusing a lot on him and dating again, with
I know,
him.
it's weird.
So awesome. Yeah, and I mean you both work a lot, right? Like he works 14-hour days, but pretty much so do you. I mean, from start to
Yeah,
finish, it's long
we kind
days.
of, yeah, we'll pass each other, and it's like, hi, bye, love you type things. And um I think a lot of that is, but like I said, both of us just being so busy, and we're kind of independent people. So when we do have time off, and he'll come to me and say, okay, this is my day off. What do you have going on that day? So it is nice having kind of your own business, because we can both kind of come together when he's off, and we can schedule our days around each other. So that works out pretty beautifully.
Yes, I do the same thing with my boyfriend because since I pretty much set all my own hours, it's really nice that when he doesn't have
Yes,
work, I can then, okay, I'll work around this. Like, what time you going to the gym? Okay, I want to be there when you're there. Or if I know he's working at the gym from X time to Y time, I'm going to try to get my workout in while he's working there just so I can even just see him.
I
Um,
know,
you
even
know
if
what I
it's an
mean?
hour. Yes.
Yeah, it makes a big
Hmm.
difference. And I have
It does.
a lot of people say like, oh, marriage is really just like passing by each other. You don't see each other much. So, how have you guys been able to really like maintain that level of love and appreciation for one another? Like, what do you think has made those passing moments maybe special?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also don't admit, that marriage is very hard. It's something that takes as much work as bodybuilding, as much work as your children. It's a full-time job in itself. So you have to kind of come together, make sure you're communicating through the day, even if that's through text. So now we're trying to like focus on spending more time together, and how we keep it together is just really just I really truly feel like you just really have to love that person. And if you just really just love that person, you grow together instead of growing apart.
Mm.
You grow together. So I feel like if you really love that person, if that person's really your best friend, you grow together and you understand, even if that means one or the other is frustrated in some of your endeavors, because that is going to happen. You're human beings. It's okay. You just have to kind of get through that and work on it. So it's constant work, but it's rewarding at the end to kind of come back together and stay a couple. I'm very I admit my faults, and I'm a very I've been through a lot of things in my life. So the first thing that I always want to do when there's a problem is I want to walk away, because I just want to avoid confrontation or conflict. And
Mhm.
so I'm very quick to just kind of say, "Oh, you know what? It's over. That's over." And I'm a very difficult person to live with, to get along with, and he's so understanding. And I'm always like throwing little fits. I'm like, "No, I don't want to." And he's like, "Yeah, you're okay. You're gonna be fine." He's very understanding. He's very patient. And I also think it works for us because we're complete opposites. So we kind of balance each other out. And because I could not imagine being married to somebody like myself. Trust me. Bless his heart. He he's a good person. So I think if you just truly love each other and you're best friends, then you can grow together instead of growing apart.
I love that so much. I'm not
Hmm.
married, but I can totally agree with you. I've been with my
It's
boyfriend
work.
for
Boyfriends are work.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've been with mine for 5 years in March, and like I'm so grateful for everything he's put up with from me because I feel
Right.
similar to you. I'm like, damn, I would have broken up with me probably
A long time
well,
ago.
yeah, maybe about a year and a half in, we would have had some you know what I mean? Like you just look back, you're like, dang, that's crazy. But same thing with mine. He's very patient. I also met him in the gym, so maybe it has something to do with that.
Cute. Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
gym love.
yeah,
Yeah.
gym love. It's like the strong stuff. It aligns with every meme that you see when you like get in your fitness journey, like find your soulmate, you know?
For sure. That's so true.
You know what I mean? Like right when you start like following fitness accounts, like all of a sudden it's like, oh, looking for my soulmate. It's technically it's just a refrigerator, and you're just like always thinking about like that kind of stuff. But
Right.
anyway, he's super patient, and that's something I've always appreciated too. And it's nice to have
Yes.
that unconditional support. And there's a lot of things like
Hmm.
he's into that I'm just like, oh my god, don't make me. Or we've
I
gotten into
know.
like fits about, but it's just like you said, it's good. And if you love each other and you're best friends, you always find a way. There's always a way.
Yes, because trust me, once they are gone, you're gonna miss all those annoying things that they do.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I'm like, if you actually did break up with me, or if something happened, God forbid, like I don't know what I would do without you and all the little
I
things.
know. You gotta remember that on the hard days, even though it's hard, because women are stubborn. But
We
you
are.
have to remember the good stuff.
Yes, that's so true. And it like it is nice to have that support because when you're pursuing things and you are so busy, it's good to have that. But I know sometimes like when we commit to new lifestyles or we commit to new changes in our life, sometimes the lack of support that we get from people who matter to us can be really challenging. And
Mm-hmm.
something you had made a post about that I know resonated with so many people was the fit shaming post.
Oh my gosh.
And like people shove food in your face or make fun of your lifestyle and make fun of how you eat and all these things, right? And all these common judgments we get. What have been some of your like common responses to those types of situations?
Well, I used to not handle it so well. I used to kind of go into hiding when I was in prep because, especially like my mom, she's like, I don't understand. It's an apple. Like, why can't you just eat it? And it's like, I can't eat
Mhm.
that. It's just not, and they think it's healthy,
Right.
but, or I love when you're eating like chicken and rice in front of somebody and they're like, oh my God, that smells so good. And I'm like, yeah, try eating it 6 times a day, for 4 years.
That looks
Um,
amazing. And you're like, it does?
I'm like, okay, yeah, try eating this every day for 6 times for 4 years. But um, yeah, I used to go into hiding and or just I would say, you know what, if they're not going to support me, then I'm just not going to even spend time with them or give them my time. And now, I think if you voice how important competing is to you, or the level of importance and getting that meal in, or prior to, like you said, self-care. This is my self-care. This is something that's important to me. Once you kind of voice that to them, most of the time they'll stop. A lot of people always ask me, like, so and so's not supporting me. How do I get through that? Well, you kind of have to just put on your fake smile and just kind of swallow your pride and just, okay, because they are not going to understand. They're
Right.
just not, because they don't do it like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People, you have to take it with a grain of salt and know, too, you have to remember this isn't for everybody. So if they don't want to compete, you have to respect that. But then in the same token, you want them to respect you and what
Right.
you're doing. So I think, I always tell people, I'm like, just try to voice to them how important this is to you. Just say, well, competing's not really for you. I respect that. I don't make fun of that. Don't make fun of what I'm doing, because this is important to me. It's something that it's it's a very um, good thing to look up to, but some people just, they're not going to understand. So fit shaming is real. It happens all the time. It's something that even down to like the clothes that people wear in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
You, you can see sometimes people give you dirty looks if you wear like something cute, when you're
Yeah.
in shape.
Like
They're
you wear a
like,
sports bra with like some cute leggings and they're like,
oh yeah. And they'll hate and they look at you a certain way and you're like, what? you know and it's like, it's a real thing. um and I just think that I think it's despicable. I'm just like, I don't understand. It's so much effort goes into, they see us as that old days, like the guys that are walking around the gym like all muscled up and muscle shirts, and we're just
uh-huh.
a bunch of gym rats to them. But it's fit shaming's a real thing. You just kind of have to learn to have thick skin, because it's never going to stop. It's never gonna.
Yeah.
You just have to take it with a grain of salt, and it does start to suck. When it's your family, when it's your,
Yes.
because that's the worst of it, because they have to see you all the time. You have to go to family functions, and I think that's worse than seeing someone give you a dirty look in the gym that you're never going to see again. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you kind of just have to I just always tell people to just express to them how important it is to you, and hopefully that works. Sometimes it doesn't, but you have to create thick skin and kind of just get over it, because it's
Yeah.
not worth getting upset about, honestly. It's
No.
just, it is what it is.
Especially if you are comfortable with your lifestyle and it makes you feel good and happy, there's like a point where the external feedback is just not even worth entertaining. And
Mm-mm.
it is definitely tougher with family, but I always remind myself, it doesn't happen to me anymore, but when I first got into it, it was like tough because I always remind myself like they're just grieving who I was, so I have to let them do that, but I also have to
Oh
support
my
them,
gosh.
right?
That is so good. Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah,
That hits the nail on the head, truly.
that's literally all it is. They're just grieving the old versions of us. Like, oh, the old version of you would have always eaten the chips and salsa, would have always gone to the function, would have always blah, 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 blah. Like, now you're not doing that, or maybe they're used to you not going to the gym, and now that you are, they just don't know how to react to that. So I would always just
Yeah,
remind myself of that.
for sure. And people handle change differently. So some people
Yes,
take it harder than others.
especially if it shows them where they could benefit from change.
For sure. No one wants to really look at themselves in the mirror and get
Yeah.
sized up.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, dang, especially if I've been thinking about doing that and I haven't. And now this person's like killing it and really happy. Like I'm seeing a potential version of me that could have been and that I never,
For sure.
embarked on.
Hmm. That is so
Um,
true.
yeah, it's something we all go through. That's for sure. I even had a family member when I very first started, like I would go to the bathroom after I ate and then she asked me if I was throwing up and I was like, "Oh my God," just because I had been like dropping weight and like getting thinner and I was really committing to exercise at the time. Like that was when I was like first started meal plan, first started like training hard, was getting into it. And when she asked me that, I was like, "Damn, like that's just an immediate assumption, you know?" It's like
Yeah,
I just had to go to the bathroom.
I even like when I would see my mom at like towards the end of my prep, because you can't for me, like my face gets super thin.
Yeah.
So you can't hide that. But I remember like was it last year? Last year, like towards the end of like my preps, I would like start wearing like baggy clothes. Like I would layer up clothes so she wouldn't notice like how small I really was, because she freaks out. Like she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're so small. You're hurting yourself." And it's like, you don't understand, mom. Stop. I'm fine.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
and no doubt it's kind of scary. There
it
are
is
points where
scary.
it gets scary. You're like, this is not
Hmm.
normal or worth sustaining, but or beneficial to sustain. But at the same time, it's not perpetual,
For
or it's
sure.
not like yeah, it's not coming from an unhealthy place or unhealthy decisions. Hopefully, or if it is,
Yeah.
hopefully we learn from that.
Yeah, I'm like, "Mom, this is not long term. It's okay. I'm gonna be back to normal in like 2 weeks."
Exactly. So I had read your Team Allmax athlete page bio. Um,
Oh yeah.
I don't know when that was written. I thought maybe this was written a while ago because you've been with them for so long.
Oh
Um,
yes, that was written about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
okay, got it. It sounds like your
Hmm.
nutrition is still similar with eating the same thing pretty much every day.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of our listeners actually wanted to know, like, if you, I love this. This is what I said. It was gonna be really fun because I
A
love
good
this
question.
question. Yeah, it's just like I've never thought of this question before, and I think it's great. If you could only do one exercise for the rest of your life for shoulders, glutes, and hamstrings, what exercises would you do?
Oh, okay. That is a good one. Okay, we'll start with the top. If I had to pick one exercise for shoulders, it would be the Arnold press. I just love that it works all different parts of the delt, and it can be super challenging, and you can change it with rep ranges and even the range of motion for the dumbbell. So I love the Arnold press. That would be my go-to shoulder exercise. For the glutes, oh man, I'm gonna say the oh my gosh, this is a good one.
Right? It
I'm gonna
almost
say
feels permanent.
it almost feels permanent and I feel attacked. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna say the hack squat,
Banded hack
reverse.
squat?
Yes, banded reverse hack squat for the glutes. I love that I can basically sit all the way into the glute, and then when I come up, I'm always telling girls, I'm like, you have to squeeze the glutes. I feel like if I'm not squeezing my glutes, I'm not doing anything. So I love that exercise because, again, you can change it, rep ranges, you can change the depth. It's a direct hit to the glutes. I love the hack squat. Hamstrings, definitely without a doubt, dumbbell RDLs. I used to do those every single, like, I would say every day. My hamstrings are huge. And it was something that I loved, going super heavy on them. And it's an exercise that it's a staple for me, and I love it so much. I love working hamstrings. I think a good hamstring really completes the leg and makes it look just three-dimensional. I
Yeah.
love, yeah, it gives you that, and girls are always like, oh my God, your hamstrings are so pretty. And it's like, go heavy, ladies, heavy. It builds,
Yes.
it builds the shape. It gives you that, the more muscle you have, the more shape. So I love that. Those would be my three. That is a really good question.
That was a great question. I'm like,
Yeah,
damn, that's a good one.
that is a good one.
I might have to keep that one around for some other athletes too.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. It should be a staple on your podcast.
yeah, it's an interesting one because all of us bikini girls are like, what you doing? Shoulders, glutes, and hams. That's like what we focus on so
Yes.
much.
We want, and that's the thing. It's like everyone wants to see the workouts. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I do the same stuff every time. It's just, I know it gets boring. And I see some girls sometimes uploading some fun stuff, and I'm like, man, that looks fun. But I'm old school. I believe in like the staples.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't like to, like, what is it? What's the saying? I don't like to fix what isn't broken.
Yep, yep.
So I just like doing old school. Like, I do the same thing every time. I just try to challenge myself with the weight. And that's, I kind of stick to the same things that work, just basics.
Yeah, I feel you. My programming changes up, like my coach will change it up but there's
Hmm.
not so many times where I'm like, this is a new exercise I've never seen before. Like that's very
Right.
rare. I'm not like, oh, what's this? But in my improvement season, I would go on some of the girls' things that I would save that I thought looked fun and I would give it a shot. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay, that I could see why this person would do that. But yeah, I agree with you. I like the consistency because I like to challenge myself with the weights. I like to like see,
Hmm.
can I go heavier? And then when my coach like switches up like the volume or the rep range even, I get really excited. So anyway,
For,
I
and
like that
I had
you,
made a, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I like that you had your exercises ready to go. You just knew.
Oh, I knew. I was like, these are my top, like the first thing that came to my head. And I had made a post about, you know, I didn't want girls to think that, because I so often see, like, it's not just bikini pros, but sometimes I see bikini pros and I'm like, you guys are not really lifting that weight, are you? I mean, it's like, sometimes stuff is filmed for Instagram and it's like, but I feel like it should be said on there, like, I'm just filming
Yes.
this for Instagram to show you the exercise. um I don't see a whole lot of people really putting in there, like, you have to go really, really heavy. And I think most of the time, like, this goes back again to like fake stuff. It's like, it's not pretty. Like, when you work out, it's like, I post stuff sometimes and I'm like trying to, sometimes if my husband's there and I want to film something for Instagram, I'm like, man, I gotta look cute today or whatever because I'm gonna be filming something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's not pretty to show like what you really go through. And so I'm like, don't be thinking these girls are lifting 5-pound weights, because we're not.
Oh, hell
It
no.
takes, I know, it takes heavy weight, heavy weight.
Yeah, I was in the gym the other day and I was like, dang it, there's no 27 and a halves available right now. And I'd been waiting. I'm like, F it, I'll go for the 30. And I was like, well, that was a waste because I got like 2 reps and I was like, I can't. It was for
Right.
Arnold presses. I was like, I cannot do it. And so then I just like put them down and I like did the walk of shame to the dumbbell rack. Like, yep, I grabbed
Right.
too heavy of weight. But it's better to
Yes.
like you get to push
Hey.
yourself, you see yourself and yeah, when people record me, I'm like, maybe don't show my face, because if people, I don't even have time, honestly. Like sometimes I think about setting up my like phone.
Tripod.
Yeah, and I've
Hmm.
had my boyfriend film stuff, but like I don't have the time to be filmed in like the middle of my set or towards the end. Like I gotta go jump rope, I gotta do a sprint, I gotta be
I know.
ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And two, like I want to be left alone. So it's like
Yeah,
if
I don't
I'm
want people
filming
staring.
something, yeah, I don't want people staring. And then two, I also don't like to interrupt other people's like workouts because sometimes it's kind of like if you're working out and then someone's filming next to you, you're like, I don't want to be in their
I
video.
hate that. I get so
You know what I mean?
nervous.
Yeah, you get nervous and you don't want to like look stupid or I don't know. So much goes into that, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I love following Sid Gillen is because when she's working out, that girl is like, she's not trying to be cute, even though she is cute. She couldn't look bad on her worst day, but she just literally is like no makeup, like a t-shirt, like just getting in her workout. And I'm like, this is like really how it is.
That's
I
how it
mean,
is.
that's how it is. You gotta be ugly, push those weights, and that's what gets the job done.
Yep. Make that cellulite booty. Make everything start popping.
Like
That's how we do it.
that's how
Um,
you do.
so I want to talk to you about something that I know so many people are going to be so pissed if I didn't bring it up. So I hope you still
The
got some time with
tattoos.
me. Yes.
Of course.
Yes. So
Yes,
there has never been, to my knowledge, a sleeve bikini girl on the Olympia stage. Uh,
exactly.
why hasn't this happened yet? Why do you think it hasn't happened?
This is such a touchy subject because you don't want, first of all, let me preface this by saying that I've never had a judge tell me that my tattoos hindered me at placing. So that's good because when I was on the national level, I'm not gonna lie, somewhere down the line, I was like, it's my tattoos. Like, I'm never gonna win. It's my
Did you ever
tattoos.
ask a judge if that had a role or played a
I
role?
have
Like,
asked all of the judges.
what did they say?
I actually just the last show I did was the SAC Pro. I asked Tamer. I asked Sandy years ago, and she said no. She said um, she actually told me that when I was on stage that she didn't even see my tattoos, which that's always my goal. I want them looking at my butt and my face. I don't want them
Yeah.
looking at my arms. So even though I have a lot of pieces, she told me like, no, I don't even really truly see your tattoos on stage. Now she does know that's a part of me. So like I sometimes I get the question of like, you should just cover them up with makeup. Well, guys, that goes completely beyond my point of like, I don't want to change who I am.
Yes.
And I'm not going to put makeup on my tattoos to make a judge like me. I think sometimes people use their tattoos as an excuse. Like, oh, well, I
Mm.
didn't do good because I have tattoos. And it's like, when you have an undeniable physique and you're polished, you're just that. You're undeniable. So quit using the tattoos as an excuse because, you know, obviously I went pro with my tattoos. Obviously I've placed pretty high as a pro with my
Mhm.
tattoos. I think there's never been a girl on the Olympia stage with sleeves because there hasn't been very many bikini pros with sleeves that
Yeah.
I can really truly think of. I think I'm going to say her last name wrong. Paige Hammermill, if I remember, has a sleeve on one arm. I think she might have two by now. But I didn't really see her like pursuing competing as much as I do, or maybe as much as some other pros have done. I know Hannah Devore has a sleeve. I don't know if it's both of her arms. I know she has one.
Mhm.
But I think honestly, like I said, there's less than I want to say five of us ever that have had full sleeves, and I have full sleeves on both
Mhm.
arms. Um, and I'm pretty much covered. I mean, my back is fully done from the neck down to my butt. I have one on my calf. I have a full side piece, but it's on my left side, and that's why I pose on the right side because I'm trying to hide as many tattoos as I can, only because I want them to look at my muscles and my body and not my tattoos. So I just choose to pose on the right side because my right side, my abdomen doesn't have a tattoo on that side. I also think a lot of it too, why there's never been a tattoo pro on the a tattoo pro on the Olympia stage. I think a lot of it goes with polish. I don't, how do I say this without like offending anyone? Bikini is like Victoria's Secret model with muscle, and it is, you know, it is playing a part. You are the girl next door with muscle. You want to look attainable. Sometimes I see people with like a lot of tattoos and they just go completely outside of the box and they're like stubborn and they're like, well, I'm going to be me and I'm going to wear a black suit and I'm going to have my gauges in. And, you know, it's, it is a business. We are in a certain division. There are certain things that the judges are looking for, and you kind of have to be marketable. You kind of have to be, like I said, you have to look attainable. And sometimes I think it just goes so out. They're just trying so hard to step outside of the box. And really, you shouldn't have to step outside of the box. You're in that box for a reason. You're in the bikini division because you want to compete in the bikini division. And like I said, it's there is a certain polish and a look that goes with bikini. And that's why I always try to like feminize my look as much as possible with my makeup, with my suit. You have to be very careful with like if I like at the SAC Pro, I wear a very dark purple. And so I had to make sure that my makeup was a little bit on the lighter side on the eyes because I didn't want to look too overly dramatic and too dark. I'm already full of sleeves. I already am super hard on stage. So you kind of have to, like I said, it goes in with polish. So I just really, that is my ultimate goal, is to get on the Olympia stage, be the first one with sleeves on the Olympia stage. That's my goal. And I just really think it's time to kind of step out of that box and, you know, let's get someone that's a little bit, I'm not trying to be different, but I am different. My arms are, my sleeves are different. And so it's a different look, and I would really love that opportunity and that chance. And I think that I'm a good candidate to be that person. I just have to bring an undeniable physique now. So as long as I bring everything that they're asking me for, I think my posing is there, my polish is there. I have a good, you know, rapport with the judges. They like me. And so I think that I'm a good all around, you know, could be an all around good candidate to represent girls with tattoos before the Olympia stage, and be someone that girls can look up to. That's my goal.
Heck yeah. Plus, I think like, I mean, I don't know. I just like, I see this happening. I totally believe in you. I think you will be that person. And I think that you're a great person to do that. And I gotta say, like what you said before, like statistically, there's not very many of you. So if you could come out and do it, that's going to be awesome. So that girls who do have tattoos and who wonder, is it going to hinder me? Do I need to cover them up? You know, all these questions might arise, and you could be that person that's like, look, you really don't have to, like, as long as you're aware of the look you're really bringing. And I like that you mentioned like the marketability standpoint. And when I hear you say that, I'm like, totally get it. It's a business. They're judging us on our physiques. And then there's the other part of my brain that's like, oh my God, but if they only read your Instagram posts. Yeah.
And you know what? I think some of them do read my Instagram. I mean, you know, you gotta remember, like when you're, this goes back to like our question early on in the podcast, that once you do turn pro, you have to remember that being a pro isn't just that card that you get in the mail. It's an overall, like, it's everything. It's how you're representing the league on and off the stage. And there's younger people, there's amateurs, there's, you know, younger girls, and this is for everyone that's a pro. You are representing the IFBB and the biggest bodybuilding organization in the world, the most prestigious league. And you have to carry yourself as a professional on and off the stage. So that means being professional on your social media. That means when you're at a show, being professional. It's so much more than just your physique on stage when you're being judged. You know, you are a role model for our league. And a lot of that is, sometimes I mainly am myself when I'm on stage. And I remember, this year, the San Antonio Pro, I told my suit lady, I said, I'm going to wear orange because you know what? I'm just going to be myself for once, because you work so hard to go pro. And then you go pro and it's like, I'm still in this box, because you still are representing, like I said, like representing the league, and you have to be marketable, and you don't want to do anything too avant-garde or outside the box, especially being sleeved, because you don't want to prep that whole time and then leave something like a suit color up to chance to get marked down on. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to take a chance. I'm just going to go for it. And sometimes you do want to be yourself, and I get it. You want to be you want to, and I'm not saying don't be yourself on stage. I'm just saying, remember that you are representing a certain division, and there is a look to that division. And you've got to be marketable. You've got to look attainable. You want to be, like I said, it's the Victoria's Secret model with muscle. You want to be just the girl next door. And if it means you not wearing your black suit, it's okay. It's just the color of a suit. You don't want to lose a placing or take any chances with something just because you're trying so hard to be yourself. And I'm not saying you can't be yourself, but there is a certain look that, you have to kind of abide by that standard. And so that's just kind of, sometimes girls don't understand that. And it's just that polish can be, you can still be yourself on stage. You can still have your personality, but you want to represent your division and your organization well.
Yes, exactly. And you want to be considered and acknowledged, so that when you are given that platform, when you are given the opportunity to be at the top, you're that really good person. You're that person that you are on the inside, and you get to be yourself that way. You don't have to have a black suit represent who you are. You get to then represent who you are because you've paid your dues, or you've shown up the way you're meant to, where now you actually get that opportunity to represent the division in the way that feels best for you. And it's not that you misled anyone. It's that you did what the division required of you and asked of you. You listened to judges' feedback. Maybe they liked this suit. Maybe they didn't like this suit. Maybe they liked this look. Maybe not that one. And you still brought your own personal flair, but it's for that end goal. What are you really doing this for? What does that platform mean to you if you got it? And then what do you need to do to get there without sacrificing who you are?
Yeah. And I always say, I always tell them, if they say, well, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, then maybe competing isn't for you. Because you have to follow by the standard, and there is a standard. So as long as you play by the rules, and like I said, when girls, I always recommend, like if girls they always ask me this, always, will my tattoos hinder me? No, they will not. You just have to, like I said, polish yourself. And that's also what comes in with posing, is you want to highlight your best features and kind of polish yourself up to be a little more feminized than maybe somebody else that can wear a black suit that doesn't have tattoos, because you don't want them just looking at your ink. You want them to look at your physique and your beautiful face, and your personality can shine through with your suit, with your jewelry, with your posing. So you can be yourself. You just have to kind of play by the rules.
I love that. And I love how you put that just super straightforward and eloquently. And you've taken a lot of time with us today to share so much of your story and the lessons you've learned and the values you have. And I really appreciate you coming on here to talk to us about this. And I'd love if you could leave us with your best advice for newbie competitors, and your best advice for girls on their road to pro.
My best advice for newbie competitors would be to enjoy the process and don't overthink everything. Your bracelet isn't going to affect your placing on stage. They worry about everything. And you don't have to worry about everything. Be yourself, enjoy the process, and see if it's something that you want to do long term. Because I always say you either love it or hate it. There's no in between. And my advice for girls on the national level trying to go pro would be let the lessons from on stage make you better, not bitter, and use it to make you better long term as an athlete, whether that be physically or mentally, because you're going to lose more than you're going to win. And you got to enjoy that process all the way through, and you got to really love it. And it is very rewarding. You just have to get the mental side down more than the physical.
Yes, I'm taking notes.
And thank you. Thank you so much for having me, because I have wanted to be on your podcast for so long. I'm so sorry. I've been competing for so many shows in the last 2 years, and I'm so happy I finally got to talk to you.
Me too. Fortunes of the follow-up. See, I'm so glad that you're here.
Me too.
This has been such an incredible episode. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and I can't wait to hear everybody's feedback. And I want them to be able to tag you, because a lot of the listeners love to screenshot, post it on their stories. So where can they find you, connect with you, and even reach out to work with you?
Okay, so my Instagram page is Garthwaite Fit, and I also do makeup for shows, and so that can be found on Instagram also under Glam by Carla. And then I am coming out with my waist trainers next week on the 20th, and that can be found on Instagram also under Cinched by Carla. And I'm really excited to connect with them, and I'm just grateful that they even took the time out of their day to listen.
Oh, that's awesome. And I super appreciate you. And to everyone listening, thank you guys for joining us. I can't wait to hear all your thoughts. And it always means so much when you leave a review on iTunes, and of course, rate it and subscribe, share it with a friend. That's the best tip you could give. Just share this podcast. It means a lot. It goes a long way. I super appreciate it. And with all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world, while you're